Greetings, one. Good morning, Rotarians. And welcome to our regularly scheduled Wednesday morning meetings. Today is, I believe, July 9th, 2025. I'm so happy to see so many friendly faces here this morning. Y'all are looking great. Let's see, before I show up for invocation here, these Terry found these tickets just outside of the room here. These belong to anybody? There's a story here, sure, sense. All right, well, I was just gonna say, Tom, so, no, tell me who it is and I'll get it to you. All right, let's see here, let's start with the invocation. Joe, would you step up and get us on? Let's start this morning.
Being so close to our Independence Day celebration, I brought with me, ironically, of course, the Church of England's 1662 Book of Common Prayer. I bet when they wrote this, they never thought that American colonists would be celebrating their independence. But here we go, let's pray. Almighty Father, whose kingdom is everlasting, we beseech thee in thy mercy to direct and prosper the counsel of all those who bear the authority in this land, that in humility and honesty they may faithfully serve the fulfillment of their charge. And grant, we pray thee, that religion and piety, peace and unity, truth and justice may be established among us for all generations. Amen.
Terry, come on up. The Pledge of Allegiance. Would you do the four-way, the leaders in the four-way test?
Good morning, everybody. Okay, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test. We're going to test me now. Okay. 1, is it the truth? 2, will it nurture all? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Take a second. I don't think we have any guests this morning, but few guests and let's have that. I assume these are people this morning. So Terry, you're here. Would you please?
Thank you. Oh. All right, this month we're celebrating culinary and gardening. It's the middle of summer and we have the opportunity to have so many great fresh foods and we get out there and work in those gardens. So I thought it would be a good time to bring someone in who knows a lot about that. And so we have Mr. Charlie Denk this morning from STIR. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to take advantage of this wonderful facility uptown or business uptown down in First and Main. It is a cooking class. So, yeah. And at Christmas, we had the pleasure, my older children have taken advantage of it with groups of friends, and at Christmas, I booked it for an evening, and all 3 of my children and their spouses and my husband and myself went, and we did a cooking class all together, and it was great fun. It was just great fun. It was kind of a Christmas gift to the kids. And this week, my 11-year-old granddaughter is actually in a week-long, it's 12-week, right, Charlie, cooking class. So for those of you who have grandkids, this is something really fun and exciting for them to do for the summer. And then she comes home and makes what they learned in the cooking class for us. So let me introduce to you Charlie Denk. He is the owner of STIR Studio Kitchen, which is located at First and Main. Charlie grew up in Cleveland and started STIR Studio Kitchen when he was just 24 years old after a brief career as an engineer. Not sure how the segue works there, but it did. At STIR, Charlie is turning the idea of cooking classes upside down. They're building stunning studios, filling them with dynamic instructors, cooking interesting food, and delivering a compelling guest experience. They currently have 3 studios in the area. They have one in Ohio City, one in Chagrin Falls, and one here at First and Main in Hudson. He started this business simply because he loved cooking classes, but thought it was such an underserved market and underappreciated activity. So he is trying to make it a better experience for everyone. Charlie's a graduate of St. Ignatius in Cleveland and Penn State University. He now lives in Chagrin Falls with his wife, who is also a chef, and he is an active volunteer in his home community. Please welcome Charlie Denk.
Hello, everyone. So yeah, thank you, Terry. My name's Charlie, as you said. Welcome. Thanks for having me. Kudos to you. Kudos to you because Hudson's been a good community to do business in. And we started in Ohio City and then went to Chagrin Falls. And Hudson was our first studio. And we knew a little bit more about what we were doing at the time, so that made it a little bit easier. But as a community, Hudson, from the mayor's office all the way down to the building department and residents, we just kind of been embraced and they made the process as easy as possible and helped ensure our success. So, and I think that definitely was a better experience we had in the Chagrin Falls, Ohio City. So kudos to Hudson for that, and kudos to Terry for getting me in front of a microphone at 7:34. Which is a big deal for me. Big deal. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about my experience opening a store a little bit, and then talk a little bit about the food. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. So as Terry said, 3 studios, we do cooking classes. You do children's classes, we do adult public classes, sort of a date night experience, and then we do private parties. Groups of 6 to 20 people. But we really just try to make them fun and try to capitalize on this obsession that everyone has with food, sort of. When I was a child, I'm 32 right now, but when I was a kid, I knew that I loved to eat. And I knew that somehow food made its way from a farm to my plate, but I didn't really know anything past that. But as I was a kid, I was at the forefront of this proliferation of cooking. Meaning, every time you turn on the TV, starting at about my age of 10, saw people cooking. Whether it was Emerald or Rachel Ray, Bobby Flay, this was the beginning of that sort of cultural revolution in food. So I just became kind of into it. And I got into food the same way a lot of people do. I watch it on TV, but I being entertained by it first and foremost, before I really built a passion for creating it myself. And I think that's kind of nice that our world does well, is it gets people into cooking and into food in a nice, natural way, entertainment. And that's what we're trying to do at Stir. So really focus on having fun with people and providing them a nice, memorable experience, and just showing them new, different ways of cooking things, maybe get them to try something they've never tried before, both cooking wise and eating. And hopefully they leave a little bit more curious, maybe a little bit more into it than they entered our studio. What else? So, and we do all sorts of different cuisines. Now, some of the more approachable stuff we do is like pasta from scratch. We'll do some seasonal classes, whether it's summer or winter or spring. And then we'll do more adventurous things like Indian food and Thai. We have very popular Middle Eastern classes, so we kind of run a gamut. But this time of year, we really try to do this. We use seasonal ingredients. And kind of funny, just a consumer, as a person who goes to a restaurant, you see these things, and you'll go to a restaurant and see the seasonal salad or the seasonal chicken or whatever. And even then, subconsciously, you know there's something behind that, there's a reason why it's seasonal. You might not really understand going into that. But so yeah, every season where we live presents all those unique ingredients for that season. And this is not a brainer, whether it's a restaurant or a cooking class, it's to your advantage to use those ingredients. You get them less expensive and they're at their highest quality. So it's really a no-brainer. it's green bean season, they're on a green bean dish. Same goes for squash, and watermelon and all that, all those products. And we're no exception, so we're trying to do that in our classes. And I don't know, in terms of how to use these sort of ingredients and how to appeal to people using them. I'm kind of a junk eater. I don't eat junky food, but I'm not good. I don't do the salads. And I can't do the heavy, the veggie things. And I don't think that makes me much different than other folks in the generation above me. So yeah, I'm never gonna eat a salad. It's not exciting enough to me, it doesn't taste good enough. I like to use my seasonal produce in things like a veggie quesadilla or a veggie empanada. I like to eat pickled vegetables alongside a sandwich. So instead of potato chips, I'll have a pickled carrot or a pickled green bean. I think those are like the much more resourceful ways to use these ingredients. Oh gosh, my wife, who's a stellar chef, she'll whip up things like, caprese, which isn't quite a salad in my life, but there's so much cheese. If the cheese to vegetable ratio is 50-50, then I think you kind of lose your ability to follow a salad. But in all seriousness, that's fresh basil, fresh tomatoes. We have this magnificent garden at our house that's about the size of the stage. We just built like 6 months ago. And so we're in that nonstop. This year it's been a little bit rough because the weather is so crazy. But it's just, in my mind, using seasonal produce, using seasonal ingredients, it's not about, some people will tell you it's about keeping them as unadulterated as possible. So as clean of a transition to the farm to your plate. And that's fine, but like I said, I'm not one to eat a bunch of raw veggies in their natural form. I think it's much more realistic, much more approachable. Take that really good high quality produce that you get in this part of the world this time of year, and just do little tweaks to it and make it fun and interesting. Basically, things like that. And that's kind of what we do at Starbucks. Is we take food and we take cooking and we make it turn it into a chore into something that people actually have fun doing. We put a little wine down there. You do it right about it. But when it does, just drink a little bit and that salad will taste better. A little more fun. But so that's kind of my overview, y'all. Again, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk anything about business or food. Those are two huge passions of mine. But without further ado, I'm happy to answer some questions. Please ask me some.
So I got to mention to you, I started a vegetable garden this year. I mean, I had a vegetable once previous year at home, but I found the Kent community garden on Ravenna Street, which is a wonderful facility for anybody. Ron, you love yourself.
My neighbor brings all the stuff over.
Oh, his neighbor brings all the stuff that he grows over on, so it's a great spot. And for me, it's just like, this is the first year doing it, and it's the first year that I grew corn, for example. Never done that before, and it is, it's 18 inches tall now, and I'm just having the most fun with it. I feel like a kid again. I really love, like grew sunflowers or something. So tell me, is growing vegetables and herbs, is that relatively new to you? And where are you doing it?
So it's so new to me that I haven't really started yet. No, my wife is the gardener in our house. Okay. So we just bought 2 acres of land in Chagrin Falls. So we both have a big fenced-in garden. It's pretty elaborate, raised beds. Beautiful. Right. But I am a terrible gardener. I appreciate it, but I have that gene is me by a mile. So I don't actively participate much in gardening, but I do appreciate it. Like you said, it's hard to be true on that analogy about feeling a kid. Not to sound all cheesy. The last thing you need is a philosophy lesson for a 2-year-old. As you get older, I'm noticing that there is way more difficult to have that feeling, like feeling like a kid, that curiosity, that excitement, pure just joy that kind of comes along with being a young human. It gets harder and harder to have that feeling. And I ride bikes a lot, and every time I step on a bicycle, I feel like I get again. That's one way I maintain it, but growing your own food, I think is just another way that somewhere deep down in our brains, in our chemistry, we have those wires still connected. Where just growing your own food is thrilling and it's very it's curious and the genuine part of being a human. So while I don't participate much in it, I'm pretty throwing things up. I certainly spend a lot of time in the garden and in all sorts of gardens too. You know, I get some of these production farms, both livestock and agricultural. And yeah, just to be around that is very instinctual, very primitive. So that's my experience. That's what it means to me.
So could you describe the different classes you offer, like how many people are in it, maybe the cost?
Yeah, so we basically do three things for the most part. We have these date night classes, I call them date night classes, they're public classes. Lots of people come alone, lots of people come in groups of four, but the point is, it's a mixture of people who don't know each other. And those are usually 12 people in those classes. We host them 2 nights a week, Wednesday through Sundays. So those are our public classes. That's one thing we do. We also do private events that what Terry did with her family, where you can do a cooking class, same sort of experience, but you have it placed to yourself. We can accommodate groups of between 6 and 20 people for those. So public classes, private parties, and then last but not least, the third pillar of our business is corporate outings. So in today's day and age, these team building events, people are looking to get out of the office, do things together. So that's a huge part of our business. We like to do the job of those. So those are the three main things we do. We have a separate brand for children. The funny story there is we started Stir 6 years ago. And there were a few things I swore I wouldn't do when I started Stir. I wouldn't sell any products. So we don't try to sell you a pot of a pan there. We're just there to show you a good time. So I didn't want to sell anything. I never wanted to make it too expensive. I'll touch on in a second. And I never wanted to start a kids classes. Because I thought, we're not gonna be good at kids classes. It's messy and it's just not a good thing. I just don't want to. Sure enough, years later, we're called Stir. And we thought, man, if we were to ever start a kids brand, we should call it Youngsters. And then I'm like, oh, now we have to do it. So, right. So then literally the name came first and they're like, now we can't not do this. So we had the kids brand called Youngsters, which has been a lot of fun and Terry's granddaughter, favorite pupils. But so yeah, those are the main things we do. And then gosh, in terms of the cuisines we cook, it's everything. We'll have baking workshops and nice skill workshops. But then our whole prep classes, like I said, they'll range from baked potatoes, like pasta and bananas, all the way to super unique things where we're, oh gosh, yeah, Indian, Thai, Middle Eastern. We have an Egyptian class that's really good. And we try to appeal to both, to all eaters, to all people. So some of the things we do are very approachable, and some of the things we do are kind of out there, funky. But I like to have one foot in each of those spots, personally. And then cost-wise, this is another hot topic. So as you probably know, or I read, it's just getting harder and harder. And I guess I'm saying control your costs as a business, whether you're a small business or a big one. So, and we're no exception to that. We pay our people well, and it's really, we do a good job and all that stuff. But so our classes are kind of as inexpensive as they can be. We really take its responsibility there seriously to just try to minimize that sticker price to the consumer. But generally speaking, our classes are about $80. It's a 3-hour experience, 2 hours of hands-on, starts with cooking, and then we plate the meal, we serve it to you getting needed on site. So it kind of goes from this cooking experience into an equal part of dining experience. But about $80 is good if you can do it for right now. There are places in the country that charge about $130. Obnoxious.
This is alternative for being here. First question, you're talking about the different ethnicities that you, cook to, or do you ever discuss like the culture of the, places that you are cooking from? I've always found that not a lot of people who foods that you consider that more. Those people that are understanding the first world, you ever discuss kind of some of that?
That's a good question. So do we ever incorporate more of a cultural, historical context into our different cuisines? Have we done it? The short answer is yes. Wow, that's a really good question. We certainly don't, we have chefs teaching these classes. We certainly don't pretend that our chefs are also cultural historians. So we don't pretend, but I think naturally, yes. If we're teaching something like a gnocchi class, for instance, people think of gnocchi as just a big file or shells, no, plastic wrap, oily, right? But we like to explain to people, gnocchi exists because once upon a time, it was kind of tough to get flour and eggs, but it was really easy to get potatoes and squash and ricotta cheese. So how do you structure ingredients? And we talk about how like a lot of these cuisines were really born out of poverty at one point in time, or at least a lack of resources. And it was just people coming together and kind of put their heads together and making do with what they had. How that kind of blended into their culture and their cultural history. So yeah, we talk a little bit about it, but like I said, I don't like pretending that we're experts in culture. But people also, it doesn't take much to this sounds bad, but it doesn't take much to educate people. I think a lot of people some people come in, they don't know what it, gosh, I mean, a lot of people don't know much about it, how it in its origins. So just explaining to someone what an empanada is sometimes a big deal. And how it's it's street food because people are all over the move and people work in these blue collar jobs and empanadas are easy to transport and eat. Yeah.
And then, I see an increase in, interest in cooking classes, and so I know that, I mean, that class is like, not that, everything like dinner, and then we kind of made a transition to where it's all kind of like processed food, McDonald's, things like that, we're finding out this food is not exactly very healthy for us to eat. So have you seen that there is kind of a shift now as we're kind of finding out some of the things that are in our foods that may not be very healthy for us? Or the process things like that where people are taking more of an interest on doing like maybe home cooking, things of that nature.
Another great question. So I won't pretend to be an expert, but I have been interfacing directly with home folks for 7 years now on a daily basis. I have a little bit of a unique experience because I started this business right before COVID. And the culture of cooking was one thing, and COVID turned it into something completely different, where people became way more curious about cooking at home because they had nothing else to do. So I had that whole experience for a few years, almost right away. And now I guess I'm seeing cooking turn into back into more just a chore. I think in a lot of people's minds, that whole passion around cooking that existed during COVID is kind of starting to dwindle. I tend to think cooking as an American culture is going pretty clearly in one direction. And this is my opinion. I think cooking in 10 years is going to, in this country, especially amongst the middle class, is going to start to look more like what's the word I'm looking for, a novel activity. That makes sense to me. Food is going to become more and more accessible. Fast food, quick service food, delivery. Food is becoming so much more accessible. And it actually, in my opinion, it's kind of getting, a lot of these services are getting a little bit better. You are able to eat more conveniently, a little bit healthier. So I think it's going to turn cooking into more of a novel activity. I'm looking for the word. But yeah. And it'll be more special. As opposed to people seeing it as a chore, people see it as, oh man, we're all used to cook every night and how fun this is to do it again. So I think that's kind of the direction it's going in. Obviously, it's always going to be part of life. to the humans and we eat. But I don't think we're gonna stop anytime soon. I just think the way their relationship with the wall, and it is something more of a special activity and less a chore.
Yeah, one more quick questions. A lot of people that, do you formally offer any classes for individuals that have like eating allergies or things of that? And then my brother has several food allergies, and it's difficult to find decent food to eat. So obviously the big things that are tasty, you know, how to combine spices, proper ingredients, so to you offer this in classes.
Yeah, so almost everything we do, we can, there's a vegetarian option, almost everything we do, there's a free option, those are kind of the two big ones in our lives. In terms of the dietary restrictions. So, and that's easy, gluten-free vegetarian is easy. When you start getting to the allergies, that's when we kind of put in bold letters, you know, here's what we can do. But if you don't know how your allergy might interact with that, then maybe, you know, just, this is what we're doing, or, you know, because we don't want to risk anything, you don't want to take some money in that experience. So, yeah, the whole allergy dietary restriction thing is always kind of a moving target, but when I get that question from prospective customers, what I always tell them is, hey, despite what another restaurant may have told you, or another food service business may have told you, we're kind of all here, you know, we need to make money. In today's world, if you're not appealing to the gluten-free vegetarian folks, you're not gonna make any money. So put yourself in our shoes. We have your best interest at heart. We want you to come in and be a customer for yourself. It's in everyone's best interest. So don't take no for an answer too easily, but there's only so much.
I find it really interesting how people have the courage to start businesses. So would you tell us how you went from engineering to starting a business? Where did you get your seed money, your business model, all of that? Because really you're successful and a lot of businesses aren't. So how did you do that?
So let me just try to be as brief as possible to goal. I can get you asked that about stuff. But so yeah, so I started store when I was 24. And before then I was a mechanical engineer and I worked in a big corporate, one of the biggest companies in the world. And I went to Penn State to study engineering. I studied engineering because I went down a list of majors and I just chose the one that sounded the hardest. Because I thought to myself, I don't know what the hell I want to do with my life. And if I major in this thing that sounds hard, everything will probably work out just fine. So I know some 18-year-olds are busy going off to war and working in coal mines, but I do think it's a little bit of a disservice to ask our 18-year-olds what they want to do for the rest of their life. So that's how I chose engineering. And I got a good job in a big company, but by the time I was 24, 25, I just knew that I didn't want to do the rest of my life. I wanted to do something that I felt more of an identity with, a little more excitement. I just wanted to be more excited about how I was spending 40 hours a week. So, and I think a lot of them feel that way. They want to be more excited about their job, more fulfilled, what have you. But a lot of people just kind of stop there. They're just kind of like, okay, well, maybe one day. And I was 24. And instead of saying maybe one day, I just kind of said, I'm just going to quit my job and start this cooking class business. And I came to that idea because I had been to a cooking class before. I had been to a bunch actually. And I just always thought they could be better. They seemed pretty popular. It seemed like someone would do well running these businesses. I didn't think they ever did a very good job. And it was never the experience that I wanted it to be. So I just said to myself, like, it doesn't seem that complicated. Get a little bit of money, build out a kitchen, start teaching some classes, and just go with the flow. And that's literally what I did. But so I was 24, and I'll use real numbers to make it interesting. To start our first studio, it was only about $83,000, which is actually not that significant amount of money in terms of business. And I had going into it was $64,000 to my name. My parents didn't help me out. I mean, God bless my parents, but no one helped me financially. So I just took my life savings started spending it to build out the studio, and ran out of money a week before we opened. So I took a mortgage out against the house that I owned at the time to borrow $25,000 for a term. Spent that immediately. But we got our doors open, but we've always just been a business that operates pretty efficiently. So once we get a place open and we start doing our thing, it starts, we run a pretty tight ship. So financially it was never that crazy. But yeah, in terms of just, I don't know, I don't want to sit up here and talk about courage, because it was a pretty light and risk and things. But I wish more people would understand that, it sounds cheesy, but the only thing standing between the dissatisfaction of people with their current job and maybe starting something that they would really love, the only thing standing in between that is like just doing it. And I think people build that up in their head. Oh gosh, what about my money? What about my health insurance? What about this? And I was in a fortunate position, I suppose, but none of those things are, I don't think are as significant as people end up think. You just do it, you just figure it out, and the world makes it pretty easy these days. If you want something, you can go and kind of get it in today's world.
I have a question for you about your hiring process. And obviously you have other chefs that work for you. Tell me what you're looking for.
Good question. What do we look for in what we call our instructors, or resident instructors? And this is really tricky. It has evolved over the years. What we look for, we hope for, is someone who combines really strong, diverse abilities. Notice diverse. We don't need anyone who's working in a Michelin-star restaurant, but we need someone who knows a little bit about cooking a lot of different things. So diverse cooking abilities, and also just a really strong personality that people will feel attracted to, and that magnetic personality. Combining those two things, the cooking ability and the personality, is challenging. So we always are talking to people. We meet a lot of folks, a lot of our guests express interest in becoming instructors. A lot of our part-time, like dishwashing and assistants, express interest in rising up to be instructors. So we just keep in touch with a lot of people. We're always talking to folks. And the other thing we do, quite frankly, is we just we turned this job into a much more attractive job than working in restaurants or a lot of other culinary careers. Meaning the hours are pretty easy. The compensation is, I would venture to say, 30 to 35% better than what you get in even a really good restaurant or catering job. It's fun. So we just try to make the job as appealing as possible, and tons of benefits, full health insurance, retirement plans. And that usually does the trick. So we find the decent people, and then we sell that to them. We say, hey, this is a good career. Whether you do it for a year or 5 years, we'd love to have you. People usually stick around and become part of what we're doing. It's a challenge though. Thankfully, we only need 5, 6 full employees at a time. I can't imagine running a big business. It's terrible. Well, not terrible, but it sounds terribly difficult. More locations in the future, perhaps. Yeah, we're just trying to get better right now. Once we're gonna take a couple years to really get better. And after those couple years, see what happens. I'm sure we'll keep growing.
So if I came to you, as everybody knows, we did the class, well, I came in and I said, I'd really like to learn a technique, or, you mentioned pickles and stuff, I don't think pickle thing. A selection of gardening techniques that I can do with my food, do something like that.
So the approach we take to that is there are so many techniques in cooking. All of our classes incorporate a handful of different small techniques. In every class, we do a little bit of knife skills. In every class, we do a little bit of something, dough of some sort. In every class, we'll do something like using a mortar and pestle, things of that nature. So every class we try to sprinkle in these different techniques. In terms of really going deep into any one technique. We do have like a big workshop throughout the year. We have a knife skills workshop throughout the year where you go much deeper into those items. But also what I try to tell people is if you're really trying to go deep into any one technique or deep into any part of it, paying $80 and come to start for a day probably isn't your best bet. I think that just like anything in life, want to go really deep, get into something, you're probably better off taking a larger investment in your time and energy into that before you come to us. My wife right now is trying to get into pottery, ceramics. And so she did some workshops early on. She worked with her friend who's a ceramicist. But what she has found is if you want to really get depth into something, you really just have to make a personal commitment, your time and energy to do it on your own, sort of. And not to sound rude, but that's kind of what I try to say. Don't expect too much of us because this one can be an option to yours. Okay, so the technique stuff and deep stuff is, yeah, there's one moment of art. I do want to hold on to it. Probably on the ground. Mostly on the ground. There's a lot of good resources out there that, whether it's, yeah, or the internet or a friend that help you out. Use your resources. One more, you know.
You're a pretty good marketer, somebody who was trained as an engineer. I've seen you at the library. Tell me about other things that you've done to kind of get your word out and, really talk about and grow the business. That's pretty important.
Yeah, so the marketing thing is, I'm not consider part of the job. It's just, I don't find it very interesting or compelling.
Take off any
Those
time.
kind of things.
Okay.
I feel like you got back some.
I still have a few minutes left. Yeah.
Sounds like it'd be fun to do.
Yeah.
There, make sure the world knows who you are, what you're doing, what you're all about. So marketing wise, we did, we've been very clear with our messaging that this is what we do, this is what we offer, this is what we're about, and all that other stuff we don't do. But we're typically very clear with our messaging, very good for our customers. I consider that a thing. The other thing we try to do marketing wise, I consider a thing, is we try to make the experience of being a customer service as easy as possible. A lot of times, if you want to sign up for a coding class, it is, believe it or not, it is so difficult. Whether it's finding one, finding a place that you can do them, you don't know how to sign up, you don't know if they take credit card or cash, or you simply don't know what they're doing and what day. A lot of these businesses that host classes don't make it very easy. So another way I try to market is just by making the process of being a customer service as easy as possible. Our website's easy, calling us is easy, transacting is easy. And then I guess lastly, well, the major thing we've done over the years, and again, it's a testament to the generosity of the communities we're part of, but we just always really been embraced by media. So we've been on TV. There was a point in time when we were on TV every 10 days, whether it was Fox 8 or WQIC. And they were always really receptive to what we were doing, and they really helped us out and helped their name out there. So we've done a lot of TV, a lot of news over the years, and a lot of articles in the press, newspapers. I remember Hudson. Oh my God. We opened this Hudson studio 2 or 3 years ago, something like that. And unbeknownst to me, we had a full page spread on the Hudson Times, Hudson Hub. And I had no idea what was even coming. I didn't know what even came out until I got the phone. So we've always, the media's always treated us very well. Maybe because we're a new concept and there's curiosity about what we're doing. But that's what we do mainly for marketing. Oh,
It'll be up in just a second.
yeah, see, so it's just sign up about the class, book a private event, and instructor. Any plans for this week? Here's what we have going on. You scroll down, you see exactly what we got going on this week. And so there's not a whole lot of navigation. There's nothing there to trick you. I don't know. It's something I take seriously. But yeah, we don't do I don't think I've ever paid $1 for marketing. I don't even know, I don't even know how to spend money on it. Yeah, you can, but I don't even know where to start. Yeah, there's some more food.
Yeah. My kids are all foodies, as many of yours probably are, so when I suggested that we do this, everybody was on board with that right away. The hard part was choosing which cuisine we wanted to do, because everything sounded fantastic. We could have gone every night that week and done a different thing, been great, but you have to make a decision, and we did Thai, as a matter of fact, and it was wonderful. And we didn't have to do too much cleanup, so that was really, and my kitchen wasn't trashed, so it was really a good night.
Yeah, my wife's business is, my wife's a private chef. So she has 2 employees, small team. And part of what they do is they'll come into your house and host a dinner party for you. So that's what this is. But the thing about the dishes reminded me is she's a private chef that is so talented. She'll come in and she'll host like this amazing food and present it to you, and we're just blown away. And inevitably, after she leaves, the thing they say is their favorite part is the fact that they didn't do any dishes. They didn't clean up. Okay, well, glad you enjoyed the food. Right. Yeah. 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 But again, this is my sign off. Kudos again, I think this is a Hudson city Hudson, yeah. So kudos to Hudson. Being a good community, do business in. Yeah, people, the citizens, the regulatory agencies,
before. You guys probably don't know it. I had no clue what this thing was. So we were, Ron was actually instrumental in getting this done. He helped me get over the hurdle. But I received from Penn today our congratulations that we did receive our award. We received our little patch. I think this helps us with respect to all air sports, points and monies. So congratulations to all of you, because I would not have been able to complete this without your assistance. So I'm going to hand the patch to Tom. I think it goes over to that. But thank you. And then that's it. Thanks, guys. Yeah, be worried there about the $11 pin for a second. I'm so much trouble. Alrighty, well, we'll move here. Okay, that's it, that's far. As you can see here, as we start off our new Rotary year, the theme is Unite Good. Yeah, out in the dining area where we sign in, you have to grab one, please do so. If you do not know, $77 each. Please don't think so. Really, the whole idea behind United for Good is really about the power of human connection that we all have and creating positive change for our community. So, you know, that's going to be our theme for this year, and that's really something that I really would like to see us as a club do. We're a great group of people that like care about the community at Hudson, so I really want us to kind of focus on some service projects this year, the activities that we can be doing, not only to improve the lives of citizens here in Hudson, but also to raise awareness of who we are as a Rotary Club, the good things that we do. So that's going to be the theme this year. So kind of in connection with that, I'll talk about the donations that we're looking to collect this month, which is for the Akron Boys and Girls Club. So they have a need for non-perishable food items, specifically cereal. I work closely with a food pantry in Chagrin Falls, and I know just from personal experience with them just how difficult it is these days to collect these type of food items of community. There has been an increased need for individuals throughout this area for assistance. So what I would like to ask is that next week when we come to our meeting, that everybody, please, if you could, please bring one box of cereal at least. Or pre-packaged snacks as well. Okay, yeah, the healthier the better. I know I was just talking about processed crap that we're all eating, you know. But again, this would be really, really helpful. There are a lot of individuals that are out there in our community, especially children that, you know, don't know where the next meal is going to come from. So if we provide some relief, I think that would be a fantastic thing for all of us to do. So we're all trying to bring at least one package item, either snacks or cereal next week. I would greatly appreciate it. Next, I wanted to talk about a possible venue that we will be visiting next month. Open for August 6th. It would be the Wilson Athletic Center. That's one of the dates that you can put down there. That's where the course starts. Both myself and Gail had a pleasurable time reading Friday morning to tour the facility. It's a fantastic facility to get in there yet. So again, we're very closely tied at the high school to students of this community. So it would be a fantastic day just to kind of go there and get a light breakfast and our meeting at that facility. Overlooks the football field. So I would like to see maybe make that an outing for us as we come to the end of summer. Hopefully getting some of the people from the school maybe come on with us, maybe some story or somebody if they're available. Well, that's not fair. They presume that every week. Yeah, hopefully we get somebody, because again, we do a lot of the community schools, and I think it'd just be a great opportunity for us to kind of Catherine, tell me out here, you're talking to Catherine. There is a ticket coming up. we are planning on that, right at the beer garden. I get a camera, this is so perfect timing. This segues into what I was calling on Patrick. So we've got a beer garden coming up in about a month. So if you want to talk a little bit about where we're at with that right now, we're looking to do with, volunteers and so forth. It'll be for Saturday. Okay. So we need help on Saturday, so we have to pass around the sheet metal that we have today, but we'll pass it around the next week. So please take a look at your schedule to see if you're available that Saturday. August 9th. So it's a couple of days after this, anyway. So if you can find the time, it would really be beneficial, for us to make sure that, we have coverage there. I'll either those days cooking, grilling, so. Got help people that need these, crafts and stuff. But I'm sure Tom will review up to speed as to how, properly put my stuff in the past, I'm not too sure about it. Do we have any announcements or anything else that we would need to discuss? Well, anything going on special, right?
Keith, I just want to put it feels like a really good board memo to be able to get the athletic director, so for that.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I feel like, someone with really good board member would be able to get the athletic director or someone for our tour.
Yeah, I would like to think that they have that, or I'm sure they'll do their best to make sure we have, all of us there ahead of that. We will be having a round two board meeting right after this meeting here. It's not an official board meeting, it's really, just us as a, we're to discuss the grants that have been presented. To grant committee for our foundation, just kind of give our input to them. We are now doing grants twice a year as opposed to kind of like throughout the year, so it's very important that we have this meeting, to discuss the grant for the board as they're meeting next week. So the foundation board meeting will be next week, immediately after the club meeting. So with that, I guess it's now time to go. Rotary. I was going to do Rotary, I'm excited. All right, so Charlie, let's see our presenter for the day. You get to pick out the ticket. Yeah. And the winning Rotary ticket is 1337000.
Oh.
All right. And just so you know, what you are playing for today. We have a jackpot of $304 and a payout of $7. So. Got a pretty good chance here. Come on, come on. So close. So close. All right. Thank you. And here you go, sir. Right. Oh, Andy has something you'd like to talk about real quick.
Just wanted to make sure, are we meeting next week, in there?
Yeah, we can certainly be in there, because it's gonna be more of a service, meeting, just kind of talk about some of the things that we're planning to do for the year. So I'll bring our little speaker system and we meet out there in the dining hall, kind of like we did, before.
Perfect. Because one of the things, you and I are on the program committee, and so I'm looking for some volunteers to help. David Bagel, you've done an awesome job getting all of your speakers lined up, and that, but we're also doing some of the other meetings too. So I need to ask volunteers who we're looking to try to help create other exciting things for our club and keep you with how we're changing a little bit of our meetings. So if anybody's interested, please come see me. If not, I'll be, pulling you, knocking on you, and all the rest. So So one of the things we're doing is, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, is that on some of the off meetings, we don't have speakers. We are meeting as a club to basically create a little bit more of the community spirit and get to know people a little bit more. And so some of the things are, how do we want to structure those non speaker presentation meetings? Right.
Because we decided that, we would have a few formal presentations along. It makes it a lot easier for the speakers to get in mind, all the speakers that are later to come and talk with us. But I think, as we're looking at, doing some new things here, as we kind of group, I would say kind of transition year, this year. It gives us an opportunity as to come together and discuss some of the things that we're going to kind of strategize, and again, just be able to kind of network a little bit closer together. So, we will be having some of these meetings, where we're kind of discussing, the direction of the club, what we want to be doing, as well as occasionally we're going to have, like road trips. This is the different, parts of our community. Again, for us to not only understand a little bit more about what's going on in our community, again, also to raise, visibility and profile of the Rotary Club. And then occasionally we're also social events in lieu of one of our meetings. This is something that we kind of fun again, brings us together as a community of Rotarians. But also again, gives back a little bit to the community, some of the things that we have supported in the past. Like one of the things we're talking about is maybe doing another play. We support Hudson players, as a group, we all play. Want to play something like that. Things that we're looking to do. In our picnic, you're looking to have the exciting fun. So again, a lot of good things to come as we move forward this year. So with that, is there any other questions or comments, anything that we need to discuss before we adjourn the meeting? Well, with that, I will end the meeting now. I was trying to think of how to end the meeting. I've had some real challenges here because my predecessors always had something really, really good. The Father Joe always had a great story to tell, it's kind of warm your heart. Of course, we had Patrick as dad jokes, all the irony and father certainly that was a just that. But then Kelly had his great but useless facts. I think that he had, I always thought very, very fascinating. So I was kind of challenged as to what I and in our meetings, but so the first thing I thought was maybe, maybe talk about the state industry. I have on the state that didn't seem too exciting to me. But then I thought about, I thought I was totally good at Chuck Norris. So good, let's get Chuck Norris. But Chuck Norris does, he doesn't do stuff, this year down. So, but I thought, this early morning, we're starting our day, and Rotary is about inspiring others how it does. And our meeting with an inspirational book, somebody who's much smarter than I am. So this one comes from Eleanor Roosevelt, and it's with the new day comes new strength and new thoughts. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Yeah.